3 must-visit natural wonders at driving distance from Melbourne. To melbourne.com.au presents. Created by Sandeep Karai. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. The landscape we see today, at the state of Victoria in Australia, is the result of millions of years of natural transformation. The Aborigines who lived in this area for nearly 60,000 years, before the arrival of Europeans, did not change the landscape or built any permanent structures. There are many spectacular natural wonders in Victoria worth a visit. Here we are bringing to you 3 must-visit natural wonders at driving distance from Melbourne. Hanging Rock, at Woodend. Hanging Rock, also known as Mount Diogenes, is located approximately 7 kilometers northeast to the township of Woodend, in the Macedon Ranges Shire, is a significant tourism destination in Victoria. Woodend is located around 80 kilometers north of Melbourne CBD. Before the European colonisation, it used to be a place of high spiritual significance for the Djadjawurrung, Taungurung and Wurundjeri nations of the Aborigines. It was where male initiation ceremonies were believed to have conducted and the rock formation witnessed intergroup gatherings, and it was also where women were taught about herbal medicines. This was the favorite camping site for the Djadjawurrung, a subclan of Wurundjeri. Hanging Rock provided an excellent lookout with several vantage points for monitoring weather and hunting conditions. 67 hectare, Hanging Rock became a reserve under the Crown Land Act in 1884, but its ascent as a recreational place for picnics had begun even before that. William Ford's 1875 painting, At the Hanging Rock, displayed at the National Gallery of Victoria, stands as a testimony to it. But Hanging Rock had become an important tourist destination in Victoria after the publication of the novel Picnic at Hanging Rock, by Joan Lindsay in 1967. The 1975 film adaptation of the novel, by Peter Weir, has invited international attention. During the 1860s, the first racecourse was laid out on William Adams' property, on the western side of the rock, and a race was organized as a bush picnic-style meeting. In the early days, special trains brought people from Melbourne on race day. In 1877, the first racecourse on the eastern side of the rock was established. In 1885, Hanging Rock Race Club was formed. From 1996, 3 race meetings were held annually. More than anything, this is a must-visit natural wonder, and it is doubtful whether it is attracting the sort of crowd it should have, considering its uniqueness. The only other places in Australia where this type of rock is found is at nearby Brock's Monument and Camel's Hump on Mount Macedon. Apart from Australia, only Norway and Sweden are known to have such rock formations. The rock formation happens when volcanic lava is squeezed up through a narrow vent in Earth. The lava with high level of soda content forms a rock type called Salzburgite or soda trachyte. Hanging Rock, which is estimated to be around 6 million years old, have undergone weather erosion for so many years to become what it is today. Though the rock formation here is generally called Hanging Rock, it got its name from an actual suspended rock at the site, under which the man-made steps now passes through. This is also a venue for large music concerts. The Eagles, Leonard Cohen, Bruce Springsteen and Rod Stewart already performed here. Hanging Rock hosts the biggest Australia Day race meeting in Victoria. The Hanging Rock races have been held here for over 120 years. Craft Markets Australia holds 2 annual craft markets between October to March. At the south of the rock, there are extensive picnic facilities. Hanging Rock was the inspiration and setting for the novel Picnic at Hanging Rock, written by Joan Lindsay and published in 1967. The novel dealt with the disappearance of a number of schoolgirls during a visit to the site. Their disappearance was explained in the final chapter, but Lindsay deleted this chapter at the suggestion of her editor, thinking the mystery was greater without it. The novel inspired the film Picnic at Hanging Rock, made in 1975 and directed by Peter Weir. The success of the film was responsible for a substantial increase in visits to the rock and a renewal of interest in the novel. Yvonne Rousseau wrote a book called The Murders at Hanging Rock, published in 1980, which examined possible explanations for the disappearance of the girls. The deleted final chapter of the novel was finally published in 1987 after the death of Joan Lindsay. Lindsay had given the copyright for the last chapter to her literary agent John Taylor on the understanding he would only publish it after her death. It was titled The Secret of Hanging Rock. Buckin Caves. Located 355 kilometers east of Melbourne and southwest of Buchan in the East Gippsland region, Buckin Caves Reserve is home to some of the most spectacular limestone formations in Australia. The 285-hectare Buckin Caves Reserve is situated in the Buchan-Murrindal Cave system. Hundreds of caves are located here, though only a few are made ready for visitor access. Millions of years ago, the area of Gippsland was covered by sea and the layers of shellfish and coral deposited over the years took a compacted form to create limestone rocks. The limestone formations were created by rainwater seeping through the cracks and dissolving it. The rainwater as it flows, picks carbon dioxide from the air, thus serves the function of a weak acid. It is the handiwork of nature that takes millions of years, and some of these erosions become enlarged enough to form caves. The Fairy Cave features elaborate display of stalactites and stalagmites, whereas Royal Cave features calcite-rimmed pools. Stalactite and stalagmite form shawls, pillars and helictites and a permanent flowing stream. This is a wonder created by the soluble calcium carbonate. After passing through limestone, the acid water becomes soluble calcium carbonate by mixing with the calcium carbonate in the limestone. When the solution loses its carbon dioxide component, it deposits calcium carbonate and the resulting mineral is usually calcite. The droplets that comes through the roof deposit calcite. In time, stalactites are formed on the roof of the cave, and stalagmites build up from droplets which fall to the floor. The name Buckin came from the Buchan pastoral run. The river passing through, which is a tributary of Snowy River, took the name Buchan River, and so was the township. It is debatable whether the name Buchan came from the Scottish town of Buchan or derived from the Aboriginal word Buchan, which means an evil spirit, or it could even be a contraction of the Aboriginal place name Buckinmungi. Gippsland constituted part of Gunai Nation of the Aboriginals. It is assumed Aborigines inhabited this area some 18,000 years ago. The area was mainly a place of refuge for Aborigines during the seasonal migrations to and from the mountains. Aboriginal tribes had the knowledge of the cave since time immemorial. Some of the cave entrances were used as secret ritual grounds by Aborigines, and it also formed part of their burial grounds. The caves also formed the kingdom of wicked and mischievous Nyals in Aboriginal stories that are passed through generations. But it is believed, Aborigines never tried to explore the caves. Angus MacMillan is credited with exploration of Gippsland, and he is also responsible for the massacre of Aborigines in Gippsland in large numbers, and it is said, he even carried a bag of skulls of Aborigines. John Wilkinson was the first to take possession of Buchan, and Edward Bayliss established the Gillanape Run in 1839. In 1842, Fraser Mowat had acquired the Buchan Run. Surveying of Buchan began in 1866 and a comprehensive survey was undertaken in 1868. Buchan was proclaimed a town in May 1873. The presence of the caves in the area were known to the Europeans since the early days of settlement. In the 1870s, the existence of caves started getting mentions in the Australian newspapers, which attracted geologists and inquisitive visitors to the area. In April 1878, members of the government's Wattlebark Commission visited the caves of Buchan. The first photos of Wherrindale Cave were taken in 1873 by Mr. F. Cornell. By the 1880s, caves began attracting moderate number of visitors, and wide-scale vandalism was reported by the media at the caves. In 1889, the first geological survey of the Buckin Caves commenced, which recommended development of Buckin Caves as a tourist attraction. By the early 1900s, destruction by vandalism at the accessible parts of the caves resulted in an outcry to protect the natural wonder. Francis Herbert Arthur Moon, a local resident, discovered a cave which was named Fairy Cave on 18 March 1907. The cave was opened to public in December 1907. With an eye on Buchan's tourist potential, then Victorian Premier, Thomas Bent sent geologist A.E. Kitson to undertake further studies in its viability. The Royal Cave was discovered in November 1910, by a party led by Frederick J. Wilson, cave supervisor of the Buchan Reserve since 1907. Frank Moon was also part of the team. The Royal Cave was opened to public in November 1913. The Buckin Caves National Park was formally dedicated on December 3, 1938. The caves were closed in February 1942 because all the staff had enlisted for military service in World War II, and was reopened in April 1946. In 2010's native title determination, the federal court recognized the right of Gunai Aboriginals to hold native title rights over much of Gippsland. Therefore, the state government came up with a joint management plan for Buchan Reserve with the Gunai traditional owners. Port Campbell National Park. The Port Campbell National Park features an array of sheer cliffs overlooking offshore islets, rock stacks, gorges, arches, and blowholes. As part of the Shipwreck Coast, it hosts several tourist attractions, including the 12 Apostles, the London Arch, Lockard Gorge, the Gibson Steps, and the Grotto. The Port Campbell National Park was dedicated on May 5, 1964, initially with 700 hectares, 1,700 acres, in order to protect the limestone formations on and near the coastline adjacent to the Great Ocean Road. By 1981, the park had grown to 1,750 hectares. The 12 Apostles is a collection of limestone stacks off the shore of Port Campbell National Park, by the Great Ocean Road. Their proximity to one another has made the site a popular tourist attraction. 7 of the original 8 stacks remain standing at the 12 Apostles viewpoint. The 12 Apostles were formed by erosion. The harsh and extreme weather conditions from the Southern Ocean gradually erode the soft limestone to form caves in the cliffs, which then become arches that eventually collapse, leaving rock stacks up to 50-meter high. The stacks are susceptible to further erosion from waves. London Arch was formerly known as London Bridge. This is an offshore natural arch and a significant tourist attraction along the Great Ocean Road. This stack was formed by a gradual process of erosion, and until 1990 formed a complete double-span natural bridge. The span closer to the shoreline collapsed unexpectedly on January 15, 1990, leaving 2 tourists stranded on the outer span before being rescued by police helicopter. Prior to the collapse, the arch was known as London Bridge, because of its similarity to its namesake. The Loch Ard Gorge is accessed via the Great Ocean Road, 3.5 kilometers northwest of the 12 Apostles. Stairs allow visitors access to the beach and a pathway allows access to the eastern side of the gorge. The gorge is named after the clipper ship Loch Ard, which ran aground on nearby Muttonbird Island on June 1, 1878.